I was born to play. It's my reason for living.
Hi, this is Kathy. Welcome to my channel. Today I'll be reviewing Soul, Pixar's new animated film. Soul is directed by Pete Docter, co-directed by Kemp. It is the first Pixar film to have an African-American protagonist. Soul follows the story of middle school teacher Joe Gardner, voiced by Foxx, whose soul has been separated from his body after a manhole accident. He tries to reunite his soul with his body before his big break as a jazz musician. He lands on this escalator leading to a bright white light, the great beyond, which I guess is essentially the afterlife. He jumps out and falls into the great before. The great before is where new souls gain their personalities, quirks, interests, find their spark, and prepare themselves to be placed in a body on Earth. This is where we meet Soul 22, voiced by Tina Fey, who is missing their spark to get to Earth. But Soul 22 doesn't really care about going to Earth and has actually been in the Great Before for many years, dealt with many different mentors. This film really attempts to contemplate one of the roots of human experience. What is our spark and purpose? What are we put on Earth to do? What defines our life? Pixar has always had the ability to offer films that appeal to both adults and kids. I myself am a huge Pixar fan. I have seen every Pixar movie. Toy Story is one of my favorite movies of all time. I used to have that memorized as a kid, to the point that my brothers have it memorized too, and I could probably still recite the first scene. I think it's a testament to their ability to be able to tackle these deep questions while still appealing to the younger audience. There's lovely creativity, goofy storylines, stunning colorful animation, with a universally powerful theme. Pixar has really come a long way with their animation. In one of the first scenes when Joe goes to audition for Dorothea, played by Angela Bassett, I honestly got teary-eyed in that scene. It was so visually stunning. Everything from the lighting, how far we've come with ray trace lighting technology, things like her hair texture, and also how beautiful that moment was, that he's watching her just play and reminding himself of why he loves music and why he loves jazz so much, which I feel like is something so many people can relate to when you have a passion for something and you get to see someone who's perfected that craft in their element, in their zone. It's such a beautiful thing to see. So the movie hadn't even started and I was already teary-eyed just by the visuals. Visually, everything in this movie was so beautiful. They got New York perfectly, everything down to the 7 train, all the different textures and the hairs, even the different faces. I mean, if you think back to Toy Story 1 with Andy's birthday party, all of his little friends, when you get a glimpse of them, look just like him. They all have the same face. And look how far we've come. So all these years later, now the ability to have so many different looking characters, so many different hairstyles and hair textures. You can see the texture on the clothing now. Like, it is just incredible how far Pixar animation has come. Of course, it's so important to note that this being the first Pixar film to feature an African-American protagonist, there were so many important moments in that. The way they talked about the jazz influence and how jazz is one of the greatest African-American contributions in world culture. The barbershop scene was so on point. All the different shades, the different hairstyles and hair textures. They even make reference of how hard it is for a black man to hail a taxi cab in New York. And they briefly mentioned Charles Drew, who was a black physician who pioneered the blood transfusion. So every Pixar movie needs 2 things. 1, multiple Easter eggs from other Pixar films. 2, really hit your heart. So let's talk about those Easter eggs first. Easter eggs in Pixar movies are some of my favorite things to look out for. I feel like I have to rewatch it because the Hall of Everything literally had everything. There were so many Easter eggs in that scene, and I'm sure I missed a bunch of them. But what I did see was, you get a glimpse of Charles Muntz's blimp from Up. You get to see the Axiom from WALL-E. You can see the monorail from Metroville when the Incredibles were fighting Underminer. There's an Aztec temple from The Land of the Dead from Coco. You could see the Eiffel Tower from Ratatouille. Suspended Whale from Finding Dory. You get to see Princess Dreamworld Castle, the Golden Gate Bridge, and a trolley, all from Inside Out, which was also directed by Pete Docter. When 22 shows their voice changing, that they could choose whatever voice they want, they morph into Carl from Up and Baby Dory. And of course, the top Pixar Easter eggs. For those who don't know, the Pizza Planet truck appears in pretty much every Pixar movie. So does A113, which was the classroom number where most of the Pixar animators went to school. And Luxo Jr. is the Pixar lamp at the beginning of every Pixar film. The Pixar ball actually appears in that little box that they go into once 22 kind of gives up. You could see it as soon as they slide down the little box. Another fun tidbit, not necessarily an Easter egg, John Ratzenberger is a voice actor who has been in every single Pixar movie. He has voiced at least one character in every Pixar movie.
They're here! Birthday guests at 3 o'clock! Oh, man! Whoever does the voice of that piggy truck, I'm telling you, he's one great actor. Snow cone? Oh, that abominable snowplow is quite the comic thespian. These are the lousiest circus cars in the world, and they're gonna make me rich! Wait a minute here. They're just using the same actor over and over. What kind of a cut-rate production is this?
Soul is the first movie that he doesn't voice a character that you could actually see. But when 22 is showing Joe his life, and you get to see Joe getting rejection after rejection after rejection, you can hear the very distinct voice of John Ratzenberg say, "We're looking for something different." Another fun tidbit is 22's name. Being Soul 22 is very significant because there have been 22 Pixar feature films. Every Pixar movie puts an Easter egg in their movie that kind of hints to a character or a storyline in the next movie. So the movie before Soul was Onward. And the Easter egg in Onward that gives a hint to Soul is very quick scene where you can see the records in their house, and there's a record of Dorothea's quartet. Of course, like I said, number 2, what Pixar is good at is hitting you right in the heart. And of course, a movie like Soul is not going to be the exception of that. After everything that Joe goes through to reunite his soul with his body and pursue his dream as a jazz musician, once he finally has it, he still feels empty. The whole movie basically reminds us to enjoy the little things. Life isn't all about your passion or your spark, and your passion and your spark doesn't always have to tie to what your purpose in life is. It's not the only thing that defines you, and it really teaches us not to take anything for granted. It's such a timely lesson, but also so important after the year 2020 that we've had around the world. Personally, that message hit me really hard because I am a lot like Joe, and I've worked really hard towards my passion and for what my spark is and what I believe is connected to what my purpose is. And sometimes that's all I think about and that's all I focus on, rather than being grateful and enjoying what I have in front of me. And from what I've discussed with many people and from what I've seen, after a lot of people have watched this movie, many feel the same way. Especially after you hit a certain age, it feels like it's that or nothing. It's what you've been working for and what you're passionate about and what you have that spark for, or it's nothing. But that's not true. There's so much more to life than that. You don't want to die and look back and realize you didn't really live. So obviously, I really enjoyed this movie. One thing I will say is I enjoyed the ending, but I wish the ending was different. I really thought it was going to take a different direction. I appreciate how they kind of left it open to interpretation. I really would have liked to see that although music and jazz were his passion and his spark, that maybe teaching was his real purpose. The reason I thought that was because the drummer in Dorothea's quartet was a former student of him who helped him get that audition and who went on to be a famous drummer for Dorothea. And at the same time, you also see Connie's love for music grow and blossom. I thought that that would have been interesting because, you know, even when he's in the zone and it's so beautiful and you know that music and jazz are what bring him joy and what make him happy, but the ability to pass that passion and joy and happiness onto someone else and guide them in that journey as well, which is kind of what he was also doing with 22, is he was ultimately being a teacher to her, being a mentor, putting that spark and that passion into someone else. As much as I enjoyed 22, I wish it would have focused more on Joe and his dreams and his goals and his passions and discovering that music could be his life, but he didn't have to be blinded by it. He didn't have to be narrow in his vision about that. That it was bigger than that, bigger than him. That to me would have been a beautiful ending. However, I do like that they left it pretty vague and general, and it's just about You know, pursuing your dreams even if you fail, living life to the fullest, enjoying every single moment, and that not one thing defines you. Will we ever learn in our lifetime what we're put on earth to do? Will we ever learn what defines our life? Or does everything define our life? Does everything that we love and everything that we do define who we are? And isn't all of that our purpose? And isn't all of that why we're put on earth? I don't have the answer to that. And I don't think we ever will have the answer to that. This movie was absolutely beautiful. Great storytelling, sharp dialogue, absolutely stunning animation, completely mesmerizing score, and such a powerful theme that still has you thinking days after watching it. So if you haven't seen it, check out Soul, now streaming on Disney+. If you enjoyed this video, please like, don't forget to subscribe, comment below your thoughts on Soul, and I'll see you in the next one.